Hi, welcome to Bonita's Kitchen and thank you for joining us. What I'm going to be making today is a delicious boiler full of beef stew with doughboys. This is a delicious early meal for this time of the year, and I'm going to show you two ways to make it. One, the way we make it here in Newfoundland and Labrador with salt beef or salt pork, and the other way is just with the beef broth or stock of any kind, vegetable or even chicken. So right now I'm going to show you how to start this delicious meal. So what I'm putting into this beef stew today is salted ribs, and I got this as well on Bonita's Kitchen showing you how to make it if you don't have access to it. And if you don't have access, you could leave it out altogether and just use your stock with some seasonings. Now we also got a cut of beef, any cut of beef. I just got sirloin here, and I got about 1.5 pounds, and it's cut into nice chunks. I'll explain the rest. Right now I got my salt beef part boiled in my boiler, so that's the broth that I'm going to use, but I'm going to show you what that looks like. So this is what the beef looks like when it's cooked, just salt pork or salt beef. Right now I'm using salt pork. What we would do with that is take it out, cut it into little chunks and put it back into this stock. This is the beef stock that's in there now with some onion, because I always put full onion into my boiler. I'll leave that in there. I already drained it once because you usually boil it once and then put fresh water on. But for those of you that's not going to be using this method, what you would do is just pour in your 5 cups of stock, beef, vegetable or chicken. So that's all you would do there. And if you're using the salt beef or salt pork, you would part boil that for about 1/2 hour to 40 minutes. And then, like you said, drain off the water and then go ahead with making your stew. This is the stock you would use if you're just making it without the salt beef. So what we're going to do now, we're going to fry up our main ingredient, which is the beef chunks, into our hot frying pan with a tablespoonful of butter and a tablespoonful of oil. So pretty much all we're going to do here now is fry up our chunks of beef. And again, you could use whatever cut that you got, and if you want to buy a roast and cut that into chunks, you can do that as well, because it works. All of that works when you're making it yourself. So I'm just going to toss my beef chunks into the frying pan. When your beef chunk starts to fry, you just put in some black pepper. I'm just going to toss it on in. We'll leave the salt there for a second. Some thyme. I got some ground thyme and some grated thyme, and you just put that on in there and let this cook around and start to golden brown. So while our beef chunks is feeling the love, I always say frying up, get that nice caramelization on there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the vegetables we're going to be using for our beef stew. I love parsnip. Parsnip is a sweet root vegetable that this time of the year, when it's taken out, it's already, you know, sometimes they leave it in the ground all winter long. I can remember my dad, when he was a farmer, he used to leave it in all winter long and take it out of the ground as he needed. This is a sweet vegetable, so we're going to put 1, maybe 2 of that in there. We're going to put some carrot, fresh carrot. We're going to put celery, turnip, potatoes, and onion. I love onion, so we're going to be using lots of onion. I got mine cut up in advance into chunks, as you can see. And then as it goes, I'll tell you when you add that in there. But let's get back to frying up our chunks of beef. Okay, so this is the time when you flavor, you put all the flavors in there you want to put in there. Now, like I said, the ones that I got used is just salt, pepper, some thyme. I'm going to be putting in there now some Worcestershire sauce, and I know I always pronounce it wrong, and I will get some of my viewers telling me how to pronounce that, but that's okay. We want for all of the flavors of this beef to capture in everything, so that when we start making the stew, you'll taste that. So pretty much all I'm doing in now is just getting my garlic ready to put in with the beef. I'm not going to put it in right this moment because I don't want for it to burn. We don't want burnt garlic. Nobody wants burnt garlic. So we're just letting our beef just saute lightly, to, like you said, to build those flavors. Then I'm going to press this into the beef, but you can also use, you can chop it. And have your onions chopped up and ready to go into small chunks, because when my beef is finished, I'm going to take that out and put the onions in and get that going. And back to the vegetables. If you want to make a bigger pot of beef stew, you could use more vegetables than what I'm going to have in the recipe here today, and that's going to be posted in under this video. But either way you make it, it's going to be delicious. So this is the sound you need to hear when you're frying up your beef, because like you said, that's the only way you're going to get it nice and caramelized. I'm going to put a little bit more thyme over the top, and like it's anywhere from 1 to 1.5 teaspoonfuls of thyme. Pepper and salt is going to be to your taste. I got about 1/2 teaspoonful of both. For me today, I'm only just going to use a little bit of salt because I'm using salt beef. But that's all you need to do. That's almost ready to take off. Okay, so I'm just pressing my garlic here now so as I can have this ready to go. I'm going to give it a couple of more seconds before I do that. This is the piece of salted pork that I had cooking in my boiler. So pretty much what I want to do here now is just to cut these into small pieces like the roast to have in there, mixed in there. And I recognize that not everybody is going to have this, but again, if you don't have the salt beef, salt pork, don't worry about it. Just use the stock and some salt and pepper to flavor your pot. Okay, so let's put that garlic in with the beef. So now that my chunks of beef is starting to get a nice golden brown, I'm going to put the garlic in there, not the onion. The onion is going to go in next. I'm just going to lightly move this around just to warm the garlic, and then I'm going to take it off because I don't want that garlic to burn. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take our chunks of beef and we're going to put right into the boiler. So you just put this on in. I already got my stock in there that was made from the salted pork, and stir that around, and before we're going to put in the rest of our salted pork. And now I'm going to put this back on the damper and add in our vegetables. So what I'm going to do now is pour in these vegetables. I'm actually not going to pour them in, I'm just going to dump them in slowly and get that going. Okay, just look at all of those delicious vegetables. We got our carrot, turnip, parsnip, celery, potatoes, you name it, and it's all going in there, and it's going to just make this stew absolutely delicious. So I'm going to stir this in, and then we're going to start frying our onions. Okay, so what we're going to do now is fry up our onions, and if you don't like onions or you're allergic to onions, use onion powder in with your stew. So I'm going to be putting in a tablespoonful of oil to start off the frying. So we're frying it in the same pan that our beef was in, and we're going to leave all of those bits in there, those beef bits, and fry down these until they're just lightly clear. Okay, I'm going to be adding in just a little sprinkle of black pepper onto this. I'm not going to be using any salt at this point. because I don't want to ream out the juice from the onions yet. I just want to fry them down nice, and that's looking great. Okay, so just look how nice these onions look. So what we're going to do now, basically we're going to make a little bit of a roux out of the onions there now. What I mean by that is because we need a thickening for our stew. We're not going to put it into the stew right now, but we're going to get this ready to go. So just as about a tablespoonful of flour. And then you can add in the salt at this point if you want to add salt into your stew. If you're not using salt beef or salt pork, or even if you are, you might want to season your onions. And then we're going to add in 1 cup of stock or broth to start to thicken this onions and the flour. So as you can see, it's starting to bubble and it's starting to thicken. So this is great for our thickening for a stew. Just put this on a light simmer and then leave it to the side until the stew or the vegetables is part cooked, and I'll talk about that. So this is coming along nice here now, and as you can see, we've pretty much got all the steps covered. It's just a matter of the cooking time. So for the boiler of stew, or not quite stew yet because we don't have the roux in there, which is the fried onions and the flour, for 1 hour, 20 minutes before it's cooked, in that 1 hour, you can put your timer on, or you can just test your vegetables, or just leave it and go and check it whenever. But we will put in then our thickening, and what we'll do next now, we're going to make our dough for our doughboys, and then I'll show you what that looks like, and I'll talk a little bit about that. It looks like my boiler is coming along nice there. So what I'm going to do is show you the ingredients as I put it into the bowl for making these doughboys. And what they are is delicious little, I'm going to say, round dough that we put into our boiler if we're doing pea soup or dumplings, you name it. We've added in so many different dishes, but this one is in our stew, and it goes over the top when it's thick, and I'll show you that as it goes. But let's just make our doughboys now while we're waiting. We're going to be using 1.5 cups of flour, and I'm going to say flour of choice, 1/4 cup of butter, room temperature or right from the fridge, it doesn't matter, because you're going to chop this up first, and then we're going to add in the other ingredients. So after you got that chopped up nice, you're going to be putting in 1/2 teaspoonful to 1 teaspoonful of sea salt, 2 teaspoonfuls of baking powder, and then you're going to be using 1 cup of milk. I'm using evaporated milk. You could use 1%, 2%, or you can even use a cream, and just mix that around. So after you've mixed all of those ingredients into your flour and baking powder, just leave it like that, because now we're just going to put this to the side to get ready to spoon these into our stew. So I'm going to show you what the stew looks like here now, and right now it's just our meat, our beef I should say, and our vegetables, and this is all cooking nice. So we want for these vegetables to start to be nice and tender, and you know, if you're cooking with salt beef and you notice that, you know, you want to skim off the top, because salt beef sometimes makes it a little you know, a little foam on the top, you could take that off or leave it there, it doesn't matter. Stir it on in through, let this cook 20 minutes to when it's cooked. I'll show you the next step. My mom would always say there's nothing like the pot boiling, and you can hear it just galloping there. It's beautiful. What we're going to do now, we're going to add in the rest of our ingredients. We're at the last 20 minutes of boiling our stew, our beef stew. And as well, we're going to be adding into this some frozen peas, a cupful, about less than 2 cups of crushed tomatoes, and then our roux. So let's get adding that into our stew. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's at that stage. See, there's so much in there. I mean, this is a delicious beef stew. We're going to be adding in, I was going to put, it doesn't matter what you add in first, but we're going to be putting in the onions with the roux that we made there for thickening our stew. Now, if you want your stew brown, you can add a gravy browning, or you can add a browning of choice, or you can just leave your stew the light color it is. So we're going to stir that through. We're going to add in our cup of frozen green peas and our crushed, or chunked, I should say, tomatoes, and that's about 2 cups. Stir it all through. Okay, I'm just stirring this through. But what I want to do as well, I'm going to take this spoon here. I want to have a little sip, make sure my broth is the way I want it. Oh, that's delicious. At this point here, when you're at the last 20 minutes of boiling it, you can add in more seasonings if you want to. When you taste it, if you feel you need a little bit more thyme, or you want more pepper, or you want to add in Worcestershire, you can do that. That's up to you. What we're going to do now, I'm going to put the cover back on for another 15 minutes. The last 5 minutes of this boiling, I'm going to be putting in our doughboys. I'm going to show you how that's done, because it only takes 5 minutes to cook that. So let's wait for that time. Meet me back here then. Okay, so now I'm going to take off the lid. Just don't want for it to go up over my camera, and I'm going to stir this in. Now, if you want it a little thicker, you can, but once you put the doughboys in there, you're going to thicken it just that little bit more. So that's what we're going to do now. This is the last 5 minutes of making our stew. So you're just going to spoon off about a tablespoonful of dough into your top of your boiler like this. And you're going to go in there. You don't need to use all of it, but you know what, if you like these little delicious doughboys, they are keepers, that's for sure. You can put them all in there, but they only take 5 minutes to do. So I'll show you what it looks like when they are almost cooked. Okay, so I'm going to lift my boiler lid again, and this is the doughboys, and then you flip them. Flip them over, because you want for them to cook on both sides. Now they will if they're like that, but I like to just flip them over. Now at this point, if you feel that you want it, you want your stew a little thicker, or you want it a little browner, you can make up a little bit more roux, a bit of flour with some gravy browning, and just pour it on in and let it just start to thicken like that. And just stir it. Now we're at my favorite part of making beef stew, and I think we're at Raymond's favorite part as well, when we're ready to scoop up a delicious bowl and show you what it looks like, and I get to have a sample. So let's get going on that. Okay, so now I'm gonna scoop up a nice helping and put into my plate. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. Now just look at this chunky beef and all these vegetables. You know what? You can't ask for any more than that, that's for sure. Now, like I say, this is as good as it gets. You know, this time in the year, and I mean, I always say fall, winter is when you want stews and soups. And this is definitely a nice hearty meal. I'm going to put a little bit of pepper over the top of mine. And now I'm going to have a little taste. delicious. I wanted to clear my mouth first because I want to get a little bit of this doughboy in there as well, just to have a little taste, because that's my favorite part. Delicious, the right amount of flavor. Again, you can kick it up a notch if you like a little bit different spices or seasonings in there, and if you like it thicker, you can make it thicker. That's okay, but right now this is just perfect for me. So I got a little taste of my tea. You know what, this again is good any time of the year. I can't stress to you enough. Soups, stews, I mean, who can ask for any more than that? And this is quick and easy. In under an hour and a half, you can have a meal for your family. You can do it right after work. I can't wait now to have some more of my stew. And I'd love for you to have a little taste of it too right now, if I only had a way to do that. But if you're interested in this recipe and any of our recipes that's posted on Bonita's Kitchen,
I can taste it for 'em.
I know you can. You can visit us on our YouTube channel, which is there. Our recipe is posted down in under, and also a subscribe button. It's free, just hit the link. We'd love for you to join us. You can also visit us on our Facebook page and on www.bonitaskitchen.com. And before we leave, I'd like to thank each and every one of you that have subscribed and have went in and liked and shared our recipes multiple times. We thank you for that. So right now, from our kitchen to yours, thank you for joining us, and you have a wonderful day.